Hi, this is Dr. Lise Deguire, and you're listening to Awakened Nation with Brad Solis.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Solis, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things to Awakened Nation.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a return guest on today's show, and I'm excited. Dr. Lise Deguire is in the house. Hi, Dr. Lise. How you doing?
I am good. Thank you so much for having me back, Brad. I've been looking forward to it.
Yes. Lisa reached out and said, "Hey, you got to get her back on." I was like, "Yeah, I've been trying. I had a car accident." So that
No.
interrupted. Uh, for those of you who may not remember or haven't watched her episode, she's the award-winning author of Flashback Girl: Lessons on Resilience from a Burn Survivor, right there. And as you know, she was burned over, I believe it was 65% of your body when you were little. And I want to talk about so many things. You've been on NPR, NBC, ABC, Fox, Sirius XM. Whew, I'm tired already. You've been published in Tiny Buddha, Thrive Global, Psychology Today, The Trenton Times, Grown and Flown, and Medium. I want to talk about everything, especially your TED Talk, which was very impactful. I loved it. Your book receiving so many awards and accolades, and some of the projects you're working on today. So, you ready to get started?
I really am. Thank you. I'm so excited to talk with you again.
Good, good. Well, let's go back to Flashback Girl.
Yeah.
Um, it got all these awards. Were you surprised at that? What was that like?
Flashback Girl has been the joy of my life. This little book that could, you know. I had never written a book before. I mean, written a couple articles here or there, but I had always known that I wanted to write my memoir of growing up as a burned girl. At the time, the most unfortunate child you could have ever seen at the time. I mean, I was really, really badly burned and very disfigured, and I was bullied and I was really ugly. And, I had a very unfortunate childhood in many ways. And yet, I'm a psychologist. I speak around the country. I am married. I have two beautiful daughters. I have a lot of friends. And so, sort of my story of the fact that you can start off incredibly unfortunate and build yourself a beautiful life. And
Yeah,
I'm not saying that that happens quickly. It took me decades,
yeah.
but it is possible. And that's what that story is about. And, it turns out a lot of people are interested in knowing how to be more resilient and how to stay hopeful because life is hard, It just
It
is.
is. It is. You talked a little bit about this in your TED Talk about dating and how frustrating it was, and you wanted to go out with boys. You discovered boys all of a sudden, and how hard that was. And I have to ask, how did you meet your husband?
I met my husband at work. And I do think that for me, if I could meet men in the course of things that we were mutually interested in, I would have a better chance because people would get to know me as a person.
Right.
I don't have, I would say I don't have a swipe right face. For those of you who can't see me or whatever who are listening, I am burned on my face. My lower lip is askew. I have scars up and down my body. And so if you're just going to look at me like on a photo, you're not going to be like, that's the one I want to date. But if you can meet me, you
Yeah.
might get to understand that, I'm smart and I'm funny. I have a really good heart and I'm a quality individual. So that's how I met my husband is like being a person as opposed to like being on some online situation.
Right. Who made the first move?
Ooh, he did.
I was just curious because you have
Yeah.
these wonderful children that came from the marriage, and his name is Doug. So a big shout out to Doug.
Yeah.
Way to go,
Al-
buddy. Way to
There you
go.
go. Although I do have to correct you, Brad, actually Doug is my second husband, and my
You're kidding.
children come from my first husband.
You're kidding. That's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah, right. Yeah. So I just, to be accurate there, I wanted to say that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
But the thing that I notice about you, and I did some research before I came back on the second time, there's so much joy in your eyes and the things you do and the way you do them. And I've been watching your little reel shorts on Facebook as well. It's just wonderful to see you educating at the same time and just sharing your life. Like there was one video where you talked about all these things went wrong in one day, and then you had one thing go right. And I was just like, and you met it with this great joy. But yeah, what made you get started in doing the reels? I know everybody wants to do them now, but what made you get started?
Yeah, I mean, when you write a book, it is up to you as an author so that people ever even hear about your book.
Yeah.
That is the only way that readers ever find you now is to be speaking or somehow connecting with people who might be interested. And that's how I got making these reels. I don't think I make as many as some people. It seems like some people like make one every day, and I definitely don't do that. But when I feel like I have a story that will be, I guess I'm going to use the word inspiring, although I think sometimes inspiring can sound a little like, I don't know, old, but I think in general, people need hope.
Yeah.
And so usually when I'm making a reel, it's to offer hope and or maybe some education about how to interact with people who look different.
Yeah. Your TED Talk was inspiring, and I'm going to give people a little taste of your TED Talk. Here we go. Roll the tape.
Do I look evil? You've seen people who are scarred like me in movies and TV. Almost every one of them is either evil or pathetic. There's Voldemort, Darth Vader, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I mean, these are my people. Every one of them scarred and scary. My name is Lise Deguire. I'm a psychologist, author, and childhood burn survivor. When I was 4 years old, my family took a vacation up to the beautiful Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire. It was our first night on vacation and time for dinner. And my mother rummaged around the cabin looking for lighter fluid, and she thought she found some. So we stood on the porch together, my mother and me, her little 4-year-old standing right next to her. And she took that lighter fluid and tried to start this fire, and there was a giant eruption of flame that enveloped her and me. My father was just able to see me through that wall of flame, and he ran behind me, and he grabbed me, and he threw me in the lake, saved my life. But at the end of that, I was left very badly burned. I was burned on 2/3 of my body, third-degree burn, which is the worst kind. The fire burned away my lip, my lower lip, my chin, my neck. It left my face fused to my chest, and my arms fused to my sides. And I was covered from head to my feet in bright red burn scars. Hundreds, thousands of doctors and nurses and therapists saved my life and labored over me over time. They debrided me, they stabilized me, skin grafted me, reconstructed my body, and gradually improved my appearance. All told, I've had about 75 procedures between surgeries and laser treatments, and I look a lot better than I used to. But folks, it is not like the movies. Once you are severely burned, you are severely burned, and that's how it is. You might think that the worst part about being burned for me has been that medical part that I was sharing with you, and that was awful. It was excruciatingly painful and really scary and time-consuming and expensive and still goes on to this day really, really hard. But actually, the worst part about being burned for me has been social. When I was a little girl, I was routinely mocked, bullied, and tormented on my way to school, after school, at summer camp, you name it. But there's a lot of prejudice against people like me who look different. And I ask you, where do you think that comes from? So here's a clue. When I was a teenager, the movie Return of the Jedi came out. It's the third Star Wars movie, and we were all so excited. You know, everybody loves Star Wars. And I can still see myself in that movie theater with my friends from high school, all of us in a row, sharing our popcorn and our snacks and our sodas, waiting for the movie to begin. And it was awesome. I loved it. Great. Until the end. So, at the end of Return of the Jedi, the evil Darth Vader, whom everybody hates, let's be clear, he is the worst person in this entire universe, right? So the evil Darth Vader is injured and he's dying. And he's lying on the ground and he said to his son Luke, "Luke, please remove my helmet. I'd like to see you with my own eyes before I die." No one has ever seen Darth Vader without that black helmet on. So Luke bends down and he starts to kind of pull off Darth Vader's helmet. And as his helmet is lifted off his face is revealed. And he is scarred, he's disfigured, he's been burned. And a gasp went over the whole audience at the sight of his burned face. And I gasped too, but for a very different reason, because I'm like, wait a second. That's Darth Vader's backstory? He's been burned and that turned him evil? What? So Darth Vader was the first disfigured evil villain I met on screen, but by no means the last. The next year, the movie Nightmare on Elm Street came out, featuring Freddy Krueger. Freddy was also burned, and I guess the experience turned him into a homicidal psychopathic maniac. Then there was The Phantom of the Opera. That came out a couple years later, the most successful Broadway musical of all time. But who was the Phantom? The Phantom was also disfigured from some cause, we don't know what, and I guess so poorly adjusted to this situation that he wears his iconic mask all the time so no one can see him. And of course he is an evil, psychopathic, homicidal maniac. And then there was Disney. When my little girl Julia was a toddler, her favorite movie was The Lion King. And everybody loved The Lion King, right? The beautiful songs by Elton John and the animals on the savannah, and it was gorgeous. But there was this one lion, and it was Simba's uncle, and he plots to kill Simba's father, and he does kill Simba's father, and he plots to kill Simba, and he turns the whole Pride Land into a wasteland. And that evil lion's name was? Scar. His name was Scar. And I thought, what is my little girl learning to associate with scars? And what is she going to think about? My scars. A couple years later, there was The Hunchback of Notre Dame. My other girl, Anna, my other little girl at that point, was watching that movie. Now, The Hunchback of Notre Dame features Quasimodo, and Quasimodo is not evil. Quasimodo is, however, pathetic. Quasi is very badly disfigured, and I guess is considered so heinously disfigured that no one should have to look at him. And one day he decides he's going to go out into the streets of Paris, but he places a bag over his head because he's learned that no one should have to look at him. And he goes out in Paris, he has a great time, he makes friends, until at some point that bag is lifted off his head by accident, and his face is revealed, and the sight of his disfigurement causes a riot. These kinds of depictions of scarred people as being either evil or pathetic are happening all the time, every year. You may have never noticed them, but I promise you, now that we've talked about it, you will see it everywhere. These films are spreading the message consciously and unconsciously, that you should be afraid of people who look different and wary of them. And they are teaching children, whether they mean to or not, they are teaching little kids to be afraid of people who look different like me. Is it any wonder that there is a lot of prejudice against people who do look different? Unfortunately, Hollywood is not putting out positive stories at all about people who look like me. By the way, just clue into all the Halloween movies at some point. Hollywood is not helping us. They are continuing to put out negative stories about people who look different. And my friends, the time has come for this to stop. The problem has been lack of public awareness that this is even a problem, and therefore lack of public pressure to change. Now we know, on the bright side, that Hollywood is capable of great change when they feel the need to do so. The representations of people of color, for example, have advanced a lot over the decades. I am not saying it's perfect, but we have come a long way from Gone with the Wind to Moonlight. So too have the representations of LGBTQ people. Again, it's not perfect, but nowadays we have Brokeback Mountain and Call Me by Your Name. However, the representations of people who look like me have not advanced at all, but it is time for it to happen. And it can. First of all, Hollywood can just stop making these stories about scarred people being evil and pathetic. It's been done, it's trite, it's prejudice, and it's doing harm. It's boring. Let's be done with it. And we, the general public, when we see these depictions, we can turn them off, walk away, and demand better. Do you know someone who is disfigured, who can prove to you that disfigured people are not evil or pathetic? Hello. My name is Lise Deguire. I am here to show you a scarred person who is hardworking, kind, loved, not pathetic, and shockingly law-abiding. I have never chased a camper with an axe. I have never kidnapped a Disney princess, not even once. In fact, I am a member of a community, a proud community of people with visible difference who are sick and tired of being portrayed as evil or pathetic. Please remember us the next time you see one of these depictions. Turn it off, walk away, demand better. Teach your children, please, that they don't need to be afraid of us. Scarred people are just people who've gone through something really hard and survived it. Scarred people are not scary. Scarred people are not evil, and they are not pathetic. Scarred people are survivors, and scarred people, just like you, we're just people. Thank you.
What touched me about your TED Talk was, we don't really think about this, but in cinema and wherever you turn, there's, every time you see somebody who's a little bit scarred, it's like, oh, we're supposed to recoil in horror and they must be evil on the inside as well. And I just, our society just does that. I think that happens all over the world. It's easy to draw a villain that looks the way they look on the outside to match what they think is on the inside, when in reality it's the opposite. A lot of times the person who's screwing us over the most is the most beautiful person there. So
Right.
how hard was it to do the TED Talk? And I know you and I talked before you were about to do it. What was that like? That had to be exciting for you.
Yeah. So, oh my goodness, the TED Talk was very exciting. So, first of all, just to underscore what you just said there, Brad, it is an absolute trope in film and TV that there's this use of the scarred villain,
Hmm.
and the scars symbolize that they're bad and evil. And we see this everywhere. In The Lion King,
Hmm.
the antagonist, his actual name is Scar. And a lot of the James Bond movies, and Darth Vader is a burn survivor. And I could go on and on.
Yeah.
And so you might think, well, okay, whatever, that's what they do. But if you imagine what it's actually like to be disfigured and have that be the representation of what you are like out in the world, it creates a lot of suspicion and prejudice against people who look different. And
Yeah.
our lives are already not easy. We don't
Yeah.
need that too. So that's what this TED Talk is about. And I wanted very much to make it for the community of people like me who look different, of which, about 1% of the population in the world has some sort of visible difference. And we are routinely mocked, tormented, bullied, I mean, all kinds of stuff. And so I feel like I have a little bit of a platform now to help other people. And that's what this talk was for.
It's a fantastic talk. I really, you had me from the very beginning,
Yeah.
mesmerized. I was pulled in because, I have a similar thing that gets me upset. And that's when I see Black or Latino people misrepresented in commercials and movies and things like that, made to look like buffoons. And,
Right.
subconsciously, you pointed out something that I was like, well, yeah, they're always the villain. And I tried to think back of where and when I've seen positive affirmations about this. And I got to tell you, you're going to laugh. My mother, a lot of times, she loved to go to the movies, and my dad was too busy. So she would drag me to the movies. She dragged me to see, I'm going to get this right, Liza Minnelli's movie, Tell Me You Love Me, Junie Moon. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but
I
she's
have,
got,
but a long time ago.
yeah.
Yes.
So she took me to see the movie, and in the movie, Liza Minnelli's scarred on half her face, and she finds friendship with these other two people, and I'm 7 years old. Okay, my mom took me to see this, and when we left, she lectured me to never, judge people by what's going on. Yeah, my mom laid into me. She goes, "You ever do that, Bradley?" I'll never forget that. And so, I have this sort of built-in compassion. But the only other movie I know is Mel Gibson did the Man Without a Face. He played a tutor who had been burned on one side of his face and was trying to help young boys learn to read. It was a
Yeah.
touching movie. But yeah, you're so right about the trope. This is, we have to ask Hollywood to do better, and I think they can. I mean, you look at shows that are popular now. Um, a compassionate person who may be burned over their whole body would be an excellent TV series. So,
Yes, it would. Yeah.
like the Blacklist, if they did the Blacklist that way, you know.
There was a representation just recently done on Bridgerton, not a scar person, but there's this maid on Bridgerton, and she's just because a more minor character, but she's missing one hand.
Hmm.
And other than that, she is unremarkable. She's just a maid. She works hard. She's a good friend. She's funny. She's sexy. Like there's a
Yeah.
number of men who find her attractive.
Hmm.
And her disfigurement is not the big story. And that is like an excellent representation of what we're looking for, people who look different, just like an ordinary person who
Yeah.
looks different, who's leading a good life. Like, yeah,
Hey, everybody has to live, it's it. So I think these are deeper stories.
yeah.
Um, and there was a shift in Hollywood back in the late 70s, early 80s with John Hughes films. For those of you who may not be of a certain age, ladies and gentlemen, before the certain time periods, the movies were always about the hero, the football player, the winners. And then slowly Hollywood started to do stories about the outliers, the weirdos, the losers, the people who didn't fit in, because those were more interesting stories. and we ate them up. We want to see these things. We want to
Yeah.
watch these movies. The English Patient is an excellent, you know,
Yep.
way of seeing this. So, I want to talk about your other books. There's a book behind you on the shelf, and you're working on another one. Let's talk about that.
Great. Yeah, thank you. So the book behind me to the other side is called Disfigurement, Understanding Visible Difference. And this book is a co-edited book. I worked with my co-editor, Miriam Jaffe, and it's more of an academic piece, but
Hmm.
also it isn't. So it's a collection of essays of people who study disfigurement, people who are researchers, academicians, and also people with lived experience. And one of the things I love, and it goes all around the world. So there are contributors from England and Australia, and there's an incredible chapter from Pakistan about, um, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, Brad. There are these things called acid attacks, acid attacks in,
Oh, yes, I have heard about this.
yeah.
In India and Pakistan and places like that, if the bride doesn't bring enough money to the groom's family, they kill them. They either light them on fire or they burn them with acid. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's also just if they reject, if the woman dares to say, I'm not interested in marrying you, the rejected suitor will just throw acid in their face and
Oh,
therefore, kind of ruin this woman for other suitors. And
right.
so anyway, there's chapters in the book about all kinds of experiences of people
Wow.
who look different. And then my favorite part of the book is that after every maybe three academic chapters, there's a chapter from in the first person from a person with lived experience. And they
Oh,
are so moving. So this is a great resource for people who really want to understand disfigurement more.
yeah.
Yeah.
Scarred but not scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's the TED Talk. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that's powerful. Was there any one story that stood out to you? Because I mean, you've gone through this, but is there one story that stood out that made you go, "Wow"?
Yeah. Well, I guess coming back to the chapter on the acid attacks,
Hmm.
the researchers really talked about what these women's lives are like now and how many of them are shunned and not able to leave their house and not able to access quality medical care. I mean, it's just sad.
Yeah.
It's just really sad.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you may not know this, or maybe you do know this, but in these countries, once they're ostracized, they don't have a support system. In certain countries, they call these people the unclean, the unwashed. They don't help them. There are women who had childbirth when they were like 12, and they no longer are married, and they don't have a mate, and their uterus is literally hanging outside their body. They need medical attention. But in these cultures, they don't bother. They just let them to die, let them to live outside of society. It's horrible, horrible, horrible what happens in these other countries. So
Mm,
my heart goes out to you for putting this together and shining more awareness on it. I mean, this is what it is. We have a lot of people in our society that are deformed. They've lost a limb. They've lost limbs. We have soldiers coming back who've been burned. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so making this a priority. I love what you're doing. I really do.
Mm. I'm glad to be able to do it.
Hmm.
When we were talking about the TED Talk before, right before I went out on that stage to do this talk, I mean, it's pretty overwhelming. Like
Yeah.
what I mean, you've got this camera on you.
Yep.
You don't get to redo it. Like it's you have one shot.
Yeah.
And I sat back there backstage and I like did a little deep breathing. And then I just said to myself, like, this is not about me. This is an opportunity for all the people who look different to have a voice and let that voice pass through me. It's not for me, it's for everyone. And I'm telling you, when I had that thought in my head, I walked out on that stage as confident as I could be because I felt like that was what was coming through me was all these people who needed to be heard.
I think that's beautiful. That's a beautiful way of looking at it because, when you go to give a speech, a lot of times you're internalizing so many things. You're freaking out, your heartbeat's going, and then
Yep.
you finally get out on stage, and that first 30 seconds you go, and then you forget about all that, which yeah.
Yeah.
I like how you open. You're like, "Do I look scary to you?"
Right.
I might take an
Yeah.
axe and kill you. It's like
Right. Yes.
well,
Yep.
that was
Yeah.
funny because yeah, it's like that's what we're taught. If you watch enough movies, this is what we're taught.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
I also had forgotten how many scar victims are in horror movies. Freddy Krueger, you brought them all up. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh
Oh,
my
there's so
goodness.
many more. There's so many
Yeah.
more. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, oh Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. Great,
Mhm.
great job. I'm sure afterwards, because I've coached a lot of people on TED Talks. I did a TED Talk myself, but the high that happens afterwards, I'm sure you got a few accolades. People came up to you, and yeah, tell me about that because that's got to be a great feeling. Because folks, if you ever did a TED Talk, you work really hard on this talk because you only got 15 minutes. I work harder on a TED Talk than I do on an hour and a half keynote.
Right. Right. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I mean, it for me, preparing for that talk, just like you said, Brad, I mean, I wrote out my script and you have to time it and make sure it's exactly right. And then I said that script every day. I think I said that script every day out loud for about 3 months. Just again and again and again and again, so that even when I got nervous, I wouldn't forget anything. And one of the things I was grateful for the day it happened was like, I don't have to say it anymore. Like I can stop now. Like I'm just tired of saying this thing out
Relief,
loud.
relief, finally,
Right.
relief.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Anyway.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
That was good stuff.
Uh, Good for you. I'm so glad you got that because as a testament to your work, this is the key. We want to see video footage of you speaking. And it's so hard to get that. You'd have to do all these Rotary Club meetings and all these things and get pieces. But in one TED Talk, it's everything that you talk about and you advocate for. So it's perfect, perfect setting.
Mm.
Um, you also talked about this. Your brother committed suicide, and you've
Yeah.
been talking a little bit about that. Please share that with the audience because I'd love to hear how you could have helped him maybe get through that.
Yeah, thank you. So this the book that I'm now putting the finishing touches on now and pitching is a book. It's called I Refuse to Participate in This Nonsense. And that is a direct quote of my brother, Mark Deguire, who really was an extraordinary person. Brad, he was a genius. He went through high school in 3 years. He had virtually perfect SAT scores. He got into MIT as a physics major. And like in addition to all that, he could fix your car and he was the nicest guy you'd ever know. And he tragically took his life when he was 19 years old.
Oh,
And so I have been all my life um, preoccupied with trying to figure out how it is that my brother, who literally had everything going for him, took his life, versus I, this ugly, scorned, burned girl, am here thriving and wanting to understand like what could have been done to help my brother and what do we
yeah,
miss? What
yeah.
went wrong? So I've written this book about him, and it's been fascinating, really, to see the points where he was clearly showing he was having difficulty and like the things that didn't happen for him.
Yeah.
So this is my brother's story. It's important to me, but why is this important to anybody else?
Right.
Because suicidal ideation and despair is rampant in this
Yeah.
country.
It
Suicide is
is.
the second leading cause of death for people 35 and under. And for
Wow.
every suicide, there's 135 mourners left behind. And that's just the people, and I don't many, I should take out just. That's the people who commit suicide. Then there's all these other people who think about it. And that's a lot of people. They say
Yeah.
that, 4% of anybody in a room, if you've got a big room, not just a little room, but in a big room, 4% of those people have thought about suicide, in the recent time. So this is, we are a society that is struggling.
Yeah.
And if I can show with my brother what he went through, what should have happened for him, what happened instead, and the impact it had, that same story, I think, can be used to help lots and lots and lots of other people.
Wow. I think it can. And in our first interview, you shared so many wonderful stories about your brother. He helped you get through some of your darkest moments where you'd come home from school and they made fun of you and they called you names, and he would just hold you and talk to you. He was always there. This wonderful, wonderful human being. And yeah, as you're telling me this, I'm sitting here going, here's a high achiever. He has everything. And you, who suffered through probably the worst thing you can go through, it's sort of like, why did he choose to leave? And for me, maybe I can help with this. I don't know, but this is those are people who are high achievers. I'm one of those. We can look at all these awards and accolades, and it means nothing to us. We can feel broken, and we can feel like we never did enough. We're trying to get attention from our dad or from society or whatever, and we ignore all this stuff. We ignore the love from hundreds of people. It's that one thing that bugs us, that one thing that we couldn't do, that one thing where we didn't get love from that person, and that can create the worst environment. I know, and some of you listening, how many of you have done this? Everybody loves you. You get one person who thinks you're an idiot, calls you names or whatever, and you try so hard to win them over, not realizing that's just a waste of effort. Take in the 1,000 people who love you. See yourself the way others who love you dearly see you. That's all I can say about it on my own end. I know I've been hard as hell on myself. And
Yeah.
maybe your brother was hard on himself too. I don't know. I have so much compassion for people who go through these things and decide to leave. And you said it. We're in a weird time in our society where people want to leave. This is not a fun time like maybe it was in the 60s and 70s where, a family, of four could go to a baseball stadium and it was affordable, or go on a picnic and that was enough. We're in a very different day and age. Do
Yeah.
you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Um, I think if you add in all the financial pressures that are on a lot of us, maybe not everybody, but the financial pressures are rising and rising. And there is so much division in the country. And I don't care for the following statement, I don't care what side you're on. It is, because I'm a psychologist, I talk to everybody.
Right.
I talk to everybody. And I know that no matter what side you're on, that division feels terrible. It feels terrible no matter who you are in this country to face that kind of division.
Right.
Um, so I also think that social media is a bit of a black hole. and that it's taking us out of spending time together in a room, seeing each other's faces, hugging each other. I think that there's a lot of dangerous stuff happening right now,
Yeah.
unfortunately. There's good things too. I don't mean to be all negative, but
Yeah.
there's a reason why there's a lot of despair.
Yeah.
There's lots of reasons, I think, why there's a lot of despair. Yeah.
I agree with you. We have, I started to see this years ago. It just made no sense. Every time a child would act up, they'd diagnose him as ADHD and they get him on an SSRI med, and you'd be like, what? Why are you doing that? He's a boy. He's acting out. He needs to
Mhm.
go play baseball instead of sitting playing video games. And it became an easy fix all of a sudden to put somebody on Paxil or Zoloft or Ritalin. And all of
Mhm.
a sudden, people don't read the side effects of those drugs, by the way, which can make the problem worse. And we have weird stuff in our food now too that also
Mhm.
causes forever chemicals in our bodies. We don't know
Mhm.
what that's doing to our minds or our psyche. We're not getting real food anymore. We're we're dealing with a lot of different things.
Mhm.
Politically, you're right. It's very hard to carve out a living nowadays. It really is. I
Yep.
mean, young people just starting out, everybody's complaining about minimum wage. I know people in New York City when they raised just the tokens and the cost to ride on the subway. Some people couldn't go to work because they couldn't afford that extra 75 cents every
Right.
day. I mean, yeah, society is getting whatever. And you feel like just bowing out and moving to Costa Rica. That's what it is. Live the bohemian lifestyle. But yeah,
So I was just going to say, so one of the things that is very much um, a message in the book that I'm writing about Mark that I'm pitching now is that there were many times that he could have been helped, but he wasn't. And so, uh, when you love someone who is in despair,
yeah,
there are things you can do. And by that, I don't mean you can wave a magic wand or immediately cure everything for them at all. But
right.
one of the things you can do is to say, I see that you are having a hard time and I love you so much. I'm
Yeah,
here for you. That very simple message of, I recognize you're having a hard
yeah.
time and you matter to me, I think
Wow.
might have saved my brother's life,
Yeah.
but it wasn't done. Yeah.
What were some of the warning signs? Did you see them? Because it's very hard to spot because sometimes they put on a great facade. Look at Robin Williams. There's a good example.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, that was. Ugh. Yeah, I mean, certainly the warning signs are people talking about the fact that they don't want to live anymore is a pretty good warning sign, which, by the way, my brother started to say by the time he was 11.
Wow.
And many, many times since then. So people voicing despair, people voicing hopelessness,
Yeah.
giving items away, writing a will.
Yeah.
I mean, the signs are often pretty clear, actually. It's just that people are not necessarily, well, at least in my brother's case, effective action was not taken. Really, no
Yeah.
action was taken. My parents were pretty neglectful. Yeah.
Yeah. I think another sign that I've started to look for is when you, over the course of time, see someone, and every time you ask them how they're doing, everything is just great. Everything's this,
Mhm.
everything's that. They don't have any problems, and they're always laughing and having fun. Sometimes that is a warning sign that because nobody goes through life where I'm having a great day every day. There is no struggle. There's nothing.
Yeah.
And they always have this, oh, it's great, everything's going great. I did have
Right.
one friend who had rheumatoid arthritis since he was 5. He had like 6 hip replacements and 4 shoulder replacements. He just was in pain all the time. And he got tired of complaining. So he just said, when people ask him how he was doing, he'd say, awesome. I'm doing awesome. Because that he had to. He was in so much pain. That was
Oh,
Tom Too Tall Cunningham. He passed away a number of years ago.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, good friend. He called me from the hospital. He was recovering, and then the next day he died in the hospital. I was like, "Ugh." But yeah,
Mm.
there are people all around us that are struggling, and sometimes we don't know it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, that's what I'm trying to help with now as best I can. But we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
I think you're doing great work. And as
Mm.
sad as some of this stuff might seem, it needs to happen. There needs to be a shining light,
Yeah.
in a weary world. That's William Shakespeare or Willy Wonka, depending on which side of the coin you're on. Um, but yeah, I love what you're doing and shedding light on things that I don't think a lot of people think about sometimes.
And
Um,
you know what, Brad? I don't even consider it sad. The things I talk about, they're serious.
yeah,
Um, to me, it's not sad because we can help people.
yeah,
Yes, all of these things are hard, being discerned, being burned, being disfigured,
yeah,
being in despair. All of these things
yeah,
are hard, but there is help out there and there is hope. And so for me, that's where I'm coming from. Not like, oh, let me tell you this terrible story. Like, no, let me tell you the story about how these things can be changed for good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. How do we get a hold of you? Where do we go?
Great. So my website is lisedeguire.com. That's LISEDEGUIRE.com. I'd love to connect with any of your listeners out there who want to know more and hear more about them.
And pick up Flashback Girl, and it's won so many awards. I mean, it's got the 2020 Nautilus Book Award for memoir. You got the gold
Yeah.
medal for that. 2020 Next Generation Indie Book Award for memoir
Yep.
and personal struggle health issues. And you did the TED Talk. I just love everything you're doing. It's phenomenal. It really
Thanks,
is.
Brad. You've been such a kind little cheerleader. Ever since we connected, you're always so kind and warm and encouraging. I really
Uh,
appreciate it. And you never
why I
know the
say,
time when I'm getting that because, as you well know, you do all this stuff, and some days are great, and some days are really like, oh
yeah.
boy. And every now and then I hear from you, and I'm like, oh, that's so nice.
You're welcome. I'm inspired by what you do. I really am. You turned lemons into lemonade, as they
Yeah.
say, triumph.
Well, and how about you and your podcast? I understand it's like one of the most
Yeah,
popular
I
podcasts now.
I've been shocked. I think it was last Christmas. They give you Spotify sends out, they give you a blast and a breakdown of your podcast,
Yeah.
and I was in the top 10% of all video podcasts watched on Spotify. I couldn't believe it. I was like, "What?" And then the second thing is they have this international podcast rating thing. I'm not high, in numbers, but I'm in the top 5% globally. And I've been
Wow.
listened to in 95 countries all over the world.
There you
Costa,
go.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, Costa Rica, Japan, Australia, Canada, Ghana. I'm listened to in Ghana. I can't believe it. So yeah, I pinch myself every day. I'm sort of like, what? People actually listen to what's
Mhm.
happening and the guests that are on the show. I think I strive to really have a deep conversation with people. So
I know you
I
do.
think that might be the secret. I don't know. I'm just doing
Yeah.
what I do.
Well, you should be so proud though. That's really wonderful.
I
Yeah.
am. I'm.
Yeah.
I believe my parents and my grandparents are looking down on me because I got the gift of gab from them. So
Hmm.
that's where it
Hmm.
comes from.
Hmm.
But thank
Yeah.
you for acknowledging that. Thank you.
Yeah. Hmm. My pleasure.
Well, I'm not going to let you go just yet. I got my lightning round, as you know. I want to I want to ask you three questions, and so we get to know you even better. My first question is, if there was something you could say to your brother, what would it be?
Wow. Mm. Are you proud of me?
Ah,
That's what I would say. Mhm.
wow. I love that. And I know he is because he
Mhm.
was one of your biggest champions and cheerleaders. I love it.
Yeah, I hope so. Mhm.
Um, if you left this earth tomorrow, what would you say to your daughters and maybe your husband?
Mm. Oh, I love you so much and enjoy the ride. It doesn't last that long. Make the most of your time on Earth. Soak it in and contribute.
Yeah. You and I are about the same age, and I'm sure you look now at I can't believe how fast it went. And maybe we have another 60 years, who knows, with science and medicine. I'm looking at it going, how did I get here? I'm in my 60s. What happened? It's like it seemed like yesterday I had my
True.
first car, and with you, it's just I think it's been an amazing ride. Your daughters are amazing. I see the pictures and everything.
Mhm. Yes.
You built a great family. My third and final question is, do you have a favorite memory that you keep revisiting?
Mm. Favorite memory? Yes, I do. There was a time when I was in eighth grade. My dad was a musician and he was incredible. He was a brilliant pianist.
Hmm.
And he loved show music and I love show music. And we were in a pit band together for a production of Oklahoma.
Ah, yes.
And my dad was music directing and playing the piano, and I played the flute. I was just in eighth grade, but he gave me a little gig, and my brother was playing the drums behind us. And then there was this other guy, a friend, playing the upright bass. And is it okay if I tell this as a story?
No, go ahead.
Okay, all right. And we had it was the opening night of Oklahoma, and it was intermission. And my father said, "Oh, we need to rehearse this one number. We don't have it yet. So when everybody's out at intermission, we're going to rehearse this number." And we sit down and we start to rehearse this number. It's called The Farmer and the Cowman.
Yes.
And we're just starting it. And all of a sudden we look up and like the entire cast is like running on stage and they're like half dressed and they're like throwing down barrels and like pulling up their costumes. And the audience rushes in, they sit down, and we realize that we didn't mean to, but we had actually started the cue for, for the
I was
entire act too.
That's hilarious.
And so we just laughed. I mean, we just kept playing and we just kept doing it. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
We did it. And so there we go. But anyway, I think of that memory all the time. I love like that I was making music with my family and it was doing something we all loved and it was really, really funny because we had made this
Yeah.
mistake, all of us together, and we just made the best of it. So I think of that memory a lot.
People are sitting in the audience going, wait, he's supposed to have a shirt on. It's like, as somebody who played drums for 4 years in high school musicals, I knew exactly what went
Yeah.
wrong the moment you said it. I'm like, oh no, you can't do that. And because everybody is out in the hall getting a drink, and then the cue is the music. You
Yes.
start the opening, and I was wow, that's funny.
Dum, 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 dum.
Yeah. Wait a minute, it's not time yet. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Anyway,
um,
it's a long answer, but that is a memory I really treasure.
well, you wrote a touching piece, and by the way, follow Dr. Lise Deguire's writings. She's been writing. Is it on Medium? Where have you been writing?
I mean, I'm kind of in a bunch of literary magazines now, but if you get on my website, all the
Yeah,
things that I write are there. So, and I'd be grateful for that,
sure.
Hmm.
Well, you wrote something very touching where you were little and you were under the piano
Hmm.
and your mom and dad were playing and singing together.
Yeah.
And that was such a wonderful visual for me because my mother played piano and sang. And I played drums to accompany her when I was little. I was like, 6 years old, 10 years old. We would go around. So that story really touched my heart because I was just like, I can picture you like underneath looking up um,
Hmm.
and realizing your parents connected through music, through this
Hmm.
bond
Yeah.
as a family. And it's beautiful, just beautiful. So
Yeah. Hmm.
thank you. Thank you, Dr. Leese, for
Thank
being on
you.
Awakened Nation. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Brad. You take good care.
I will. Hey, everybody, don't forget to tune in next week. We're going to have another extraordinary guest here on Awakened Nation. And if you can, please like and subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That's how we survive. Until then, bye-bye for now. And reach out to Dr. Lise Deguire. Thank you again, Lise, for being on the show.
Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awakened Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and share this episode out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success is because of you. Thank you and see you next week.